Hi, I'm Kelsey Fringer, and over the course of this 2014 school year, I have been researching obesity in America, and this is my documentary. This is a chart that shows the income level and the obesity percentage that goes with it, and it shows that citizens with a lower income are more obese because they can't afford meals that have a high nutritional value. In today's society, the unemployment rate is higher than ever. Families don't have enough money to buy reasonable meals, causing them to purchase fast food meals. This is a chart that shows the obesity percentage in Colorado and Louisiana specifically, and it shows that Louisiana has the highest rate of adult obesity, and typically the southern states tend to have a higher obesity rate because their food is fried, which puts more fat onto the food, and when southern people consume that, it turns into fat and causes them to be obese. Along with the fried food in the southern states, they are also facing more poverty, causing them to purchase heavy amounts of fast food rather than purchasing meals with nutritional value.
Nearly a third of the world has expanded its waistline. Shocking new analysis claims global obesity rates are still rising, and no country has been able to beat the bulge in the last 3 decades. 2 billion people make up roughly a third of Earth's population. The number comes from a combined total of people who are obese or overweight. The University of Washington compiled the study, which took into account 1,700 independent cases from 188 countries. The university concluded, obesity has become a major global health challenge. Not only is obesity increasing, but no national success stories have been reported in the past 33 years. In the U.S., the nation holds about 13% of the statistic. That's 87 million people and more than any other country. It's worsened when you take into account China and India have a combined total of 15%. Across the pond, the UK is ranked the fattest European country. The Middle East and North Africa had the highest percentage based on their population size. In each country, nearly 60% of men and 65% of women are heavy. Lead researcher Christopher Murray spoke to CBS News and cited a strong link between income and obesity. Essentially, as people's bank accounts expand, so do their waistlines. Researchers also say convenience has a negative effect on our health. The, quote, modernization of our world has caused physical inactivity on all levels. The new study casts a shadow over recent findings in the U.S., which showed the obesity rates in young children have fallen by 43% over the past decade. We'll be paying for all those extra pounds. One estimate shows the U.S. alone spent $190 billion on obesity-related healthcare expenses in 2005. Thanks for watching. I'm Lauren Goris.
Adults are not the only citizens with obesity issues. Children and adolescents are starting to become obese as well. In the school systems, children are not being forced to participate in gym. Yes, participating in gym is part of the child's grade, but the children would rather fail than participate in class. This is a political cartoon showing the two parents, the two children, and the children look exactly like them. And obesity is a hereditary issue. If your parents are larger, there is a chance that you could be larger, but you may not be, because you can still watch your diet and exercise properly and not have as much of an obesity issue.
What is officially the biggest health crisis in American history. 34% of American adults, 17% of our children are considered obese, and today a government panel issued a brand new plea for all of us to change how we eat. Here's Lindsay Davis.
We all understood the old food pyramid, grains on the bottom, oils on top. Every 5 years, they change the guidelines, and today the USDA made their recommendations for how to cut the fat in 2010. Eat more fruits and vegetables with only moderate amounts of lean meats and eggs. Put that salt shaker down. You should cut out at least half a teaspoon of sodium a day. Eat less solid or saturated fat, so cut down on things like processed meats. The saturated fat should account for 7% of total calories. That's about a slice and a half of bacon. Nutritionists say obesity is the biggest threat to public health. In the last 30 years, obesity rates for kids have tripled.
These represent the most aggressive and forward-thinking guidelines.
The problem is many of us are in denial about what we eat.
Take a stab at how many milligrams of sodium are in your grilled cheese sandwich. What would you think?
I would imagine it's a fairly high amount. I don't know, maybe 40%.
She's wrong. 2 slices of American cheese melted in between 2 slices of white bread and a tablespoon of butter adds up to 1,135 milligrams of sodium. Based on today's recommendations, she's just consumed 76% of her sodium allowance for the day. Lindsay Davis, ABC News, New York.
2 studies out today that draw the same disturbing conclusion. Americans are not winning their battle against obesity. One study found that obesity rates for adults actually rose in 28 states this year. Only the District of Columbia showed a decline. So why is it that Americans keep getting fatter in spite of government efforts ranging from calorie posting to new school lunch programs? We asked Nightline's John Donvan to sift through all the reporting we've done on the problem over the past year to try to find the real villain behind the obesity epidemic.
Kristen and Colin Robinson are a mother and son Nightline followed last year through a several $1,000 program. A 2-week-long weight loss camp which basically retaught them how to move and how to eat.
Today's lunch list for me was veggie burger, baked beans, and 4 ounces of gold leek soup.
Americans spend a lot of money trying to lose weight and a lot of time talking about it.
We're spending $150 billion a year treating obesity-related illnesses, so we know this is a problem and there's a lot at stake.
But not even her exhortations seem to be getting through, because this new study published today in the Journal of Adolescent Youth looked at more than 6,000 middle school children across the nation and found that nearly 7% are not obese, but severely obese, in the 99th percentile for weight, which means the problem is worse than believed. The second study by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and Trust for America's Health, both public health advocacy groups, not only found obesity rates up in 28 states, but also that more than a quarter of the population is obese in 2/3 of the states. But why, if we know this is going on, do we keep putting on weight? In a series of our own Nightline reports on different aspects of the problem, we heard theories about why we're gaining and theories on how we can lose. First, theories about what's in it, what's in the food we eat. There is the single ingredient theory, that it's fructose.
Fructose is the cause of the current epidemic.
Robert Lustig at the University of California in San Francisco argues that the introduction in the 1970s of a low-cost sweetener called high fructose corn syrup lowered the cost of fructose in general so that now it's showing up everywhere, as he demonstrated for me, in quantities you don't really expect.
Everyone seems to think yogurt is good for you, and yogurt is healthy. But this has 27 grams of sugar for this yogurt. So, is it worth it?
This has 27 grams of sugar, too, per serving.
It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous.
The worst part being he thinks that fructose messes with our brains, making us ever more hungry.
So your brain thinks you're hungry, because if your brain can't get the leptin signal, that's starvation.
Feels like starvation.
Feels like starvation.
He has his opponents, however.
Consumers should know that fructose is a sugar, and a sugar is a sugar, whether it comes from cane or corn or beet, and that Mother Nature gave us fructose in all the fruits and vegetables that we eat, but also in combination with another simple sugar, glucose.
That has high fructose corn syrup in it.
And?
Yeah, you know what they say about it?
Like what?
This is an ad created by Audrey Erickson's group, the Corn Refiners Association. And in a funny way, they agree with Dr. Lustig, who says there is no difference between high fructose corn syrup and sugar. But Lustig says the level of obesity in America began to climb around the very time that the food industry started using lots of high fructose corn syrup, because he says it's just so cheap and so readily available and therefore so everywhere. Okay, so if it's not just one ingredient that's the problem, maybe it's that there are all kinds of ingredients that just don't belong in the food we eat. That's what Michael Pollan thinks.
I come up with some rules to help you distinguish the food from the edible food-like products.
One is, don't eat anything that your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize as food. You know, if she picked up a box of Go-Gurt portable yogurt tubes, would she recognize this? I don't think she would.
Pollan walked me around an organic farm, arguing that we just have to get away from packaged foods because humans are not designed to eat food that way.
This is not food, by my definition.
It's not food?
No. If you look at processed food, the 3 buttons that are consistently pushed by the food scientists are sweet, fat, and salt. Our bodies are not well adapted to the food environment we're in. There's a disconnect now between what we evolved to like and what's now available to us.
Whole grain guaranteed. I mean, Quaker produces oats, right?
Then there is another category, how they sell it, the food we eat. New York Times food writer Mark Bittman took issue with the green check mark, a symbol introduced by several food makers last year to indicate that these items were smart choices for people who wanted to start eating better.
Froot Loops, of course, has no fruit in it, just to set the record straight. I mean, it has more sugar per serving than many cookies. When sugar is 40% by weight of the product, what is the product? The product is dessert. It's not breakfast cereal, it's dessert.
But there's actually added vitamin A and vitamin C and fiber.
But you can put vitamins and minerals in garbage and it'll meet the nutritional requirements as long as the garbage is low in fat, basically.
Again, there was another point of view.
We believe the Smart Choices logo can move people, I'll call it up the ladder, away from high-fat foods, foods with high sugar content, foods with high cholesterol in them. I think we can move people by gradually saying, you know, this is a smarter choice than you've been taking before.
But it was not long after this broadcast that the green checkmark program was dropped. Then there's a whole set of theories built on how we eat it, which several of our reports found is mostly without thinking.
You hungry?
Like the family in Republic, Missouri, who volunteered to let us watch them eat for a day, where the discovery they made upon being watched was they didn't have any idea how many calories they were taking in.
I could drink a 2 liter a day.
So 2 liters a day of Mountain Dew is how many calories, do you know?
No idea, never had to think about it.
And the family in West Virginia, where there are 11 brothers and sisters and everyone has diabetes and they know the smart way to eat, they just don't seem willing to stick to it. Which brings us finally to all the reports we've done on what we should be doing about this. We went to a school in Wyoming where they not only started limiting portion sizes and pushing fruits and vegetables, they also began to put the kids' body mass index on their report cards. We visited Albert Lea, Minnesota, that was trying out several ideas proposed by Dan Buettner, who has studied how healthier communities around the world do it. The local restaurant changed its menu. The kids started going to school this way, the walking school bus, they call it, instead of the real one.
Here's your breakfasts.
We profiled British chef Jamie Oliver and his TV series, devoted to getting Huntington, West Virginia, to lose weight.
I need you to know that this is going to kill your children early. Yeah, we're talking about 10, 13, 14 years off their life.
And back to that family in Republic.
So let's see how many 3/4 cup servings are in this bowl.
We got them in touch with a nutritionist who taught them a lot they didn't know before about portion control.
Oh no.
Results? Well, we do know this, that in Republic at least, the mom has lost 18 pounds and her husband 36, which shows it can be done, but you have to try. And maybe there just isn't enough of that going on. I'm John Donvan for Nightline in Washington.
The previous video shows how these school systems are changing because of the obesity rate that is becoming so high. The school is providing healthier lunches and is making 100 minutes of physical activity required from the students each day. That was my documentary, and thanks for watching.